And just like that, we have the Western Conference Finals set after an amazing weekend of hockey. Sunday night, you have the Edmonton Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights, and that thing was a doozy. Just an incredible game. It's but like the most exciting few minutes of hockey I've ever seen were not on ESPN. They were on ESPN2 because a random regular season game baseball was finishing. But that finishes up. The Vegas Golden Knights eliminate the Edmonton Oilers, make it to the conference final, and then you have the Dallas Stars beating the Seattle Kraken on Monday night in Game 7 to advance to the Western Conference Final. And so now we get to enjoy the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Guys, how are we feeling about this series? This is an exciting one.
I think this is a really good matchup again. I think these two teams met in 2020, I believe. But no, this is a really good matchup. I think it's both teams are really kind of equally matched here. There's not really one sore spot in either team right now, and so
I
this goes either way.
I agree with Heath, especially compared to how the East second round went, where it was just like two blowout series. This was two heated series matches to get to this point, and I think there's a few factors that make the Stars versus the Golden Knights a fun one for the Western Conference Final. Weird that it's two teams from the South that are part of it, but it's awesome. But it's also
all four teams, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's true. All four teams are from the South part of America. So that's awesome. Another one for this matchup in particular is that it's Pete DeBoer versus his old team.
Yes.
He got fired a year ago this week, and now he's going to go back up against Vegas. So there's definitely going to be a chip on his shoulder. So it's going to be an exciting series.
I was going to bring up the Pete DeBoer thing at some point, and I'm glad you just did. This is like a major storyline. A major storyline. The fact that Pete DeBoer is taking his first-year team to the Western Conference Final. By the way, he's coached 5 teams in the NHL. He's done this with 3 of them. In his first year with 3 of his 5 teams, he's gone to the conference final with them. That's impressive.
Crazy.
That's like really impressive. I am somebody who likes cheering for a storyline. And I'm somebody who, because of my weird dislike for Dallas, doesn't necessarily want to see Dallas win. But Pete DeBoer going back in and beating his team, to me, like, this could be a determining factor in this series. Like, Pete DeBoer is coaching to say, you're trash, Vegas, in every single reason. I think this is a super interesting storyline.
100%. It's going to be fun. So,
Heath, to start out, when we did our full playoff predictions, or like our first round predictions, you mentioned the Dallas Stars. And you said it's Pete DeBoer, but I'm not getting into that. Get into it.
I mean, we'd already kind of talked about it here, but just Pete DeBoer himself. I mean, you had mentioned he'd taken 3 teams to the Western Conference Final. He took the Sharks to the Stanley Cup Final in 2016. And he's back in the Western Conference Final again with Dallas here, and it just seems like he's got to get across the hump. If he can do it this year, I think he can. I still think Dallas wins, but there's just something about him and teams when he first gets there. He brings his offense, and that's what he likes. And this was a Dallas team that struggled a little bit on offense last season, and they needed somebody to come in there and kind of rejuvenate the offensive capabilities of what this Dallas Stars team has. And I think he did that this year. Now, granted, they're not getting everything they can from Robertson, which I think he may hopefully flip a switch in this series. But no, I think everywhere he goes, he has a really good impact. Granted, I don't think it worked out well with him in Vegas. It was I don't know if that was the best place for him to go following that Sharks series. Against those two. It's probably a little bit of an awkward environment to step into. But no, just everywhere he goes, he starts off really well. That's not to say I don't think he has a problem really when he gets there. It's just the team kind of slowly starts to phase apart, like any coach after 4 or 5 years.
A- Absolutely. I want to, before we continue, I want you, if you're watching this video, drop a comment. Like, do you think Pete DeBoer being on the losing side of getting fired, will that make an impact on this series or not? Comment down below. We want to see what you guys think as well. I want to move on to like the gameplay of the teams themselves. Because both of these teams, like when I watch both of them play, very similar in what their strengths are. And I look at a team like Vegas and a team like Dallas, and what they were able to do was they were able to eliminate offensive attack that mattered. Now, Dallas didn't do it in every game, and Vegas didn't do it in every game, but there were a few things that set apart. But before I comment on it, I want to get your guys' thoughts. Like when you look at the gameplay of these teams, what comes to mind?
I think in the last series, I think Vegas, noticeably watching them, got hotter every single game. It is like they clicked more and more as a team, and Jack Eichel got more and more dominant every single game. And when I watched the Dallas and Seattle game last night, game 7, or was that 2 nights ago? Days are mixed up.
Last night.
Okay. So Dallas also very dominant in Seattle's zone, but man, they just looked so much more tired and not as crisp as Vegas on the other side. But they're both getting the rest. Game is until Friday. But like you said, 2 similar styles of play. But man, Vegas was getting hotter and hotter and hotter the entire series, noticeably. And if that carries over, I don't know if there's anything that's going to stop Vegas from winning.
And can we acknowledge the teams that they were shutting down? Dallas shut down Seattle, whose star scorer is Jordan Eberle and Matty Berniers.
Could be Ellie Tolvanen. I couldn't tell you.
Tolvanen or Strat. I mean, Seattle has a good team, right? But like compared to McDavid and Draisaitl and Kane, I mean, which one's a better offensive team is what I'm saying. Like
totally
Vegas,
into the spectrum.
Vegas did it to the Oilers, who are one of the most prolific offensive teams in the world. So that's something I thought about. Heath, what are your thoughts on this stuff?
I agree. I mean, Vegas, obviously, I mean, so it's kind of funny that both of these teams have kind of I'm not going to say none of these series are easy for them, but they've each had kind of a little, like a refresh series in both. I think Minnesota with Dallas wasn't much of a series in terms of what was going on there. Vegas obviously had Winnipeg. That was pretty much a cakewalk for them. And then they both faced pretty tough teams in the second round. No, obviously Vegas and Edmonton. No, I think they did really well with Bruce Cassidy coming in. They knew it. They had an objective and they did it, and they ran with it, and it worked every night. And their objective, I mean, essentially, if you can shut down McDavid line and whatever they're going to do, they're probably going to be successful, and they were. Same with Dallas. Dallas did exactly what they needed to do. Yeah, they went. They need a little bit of help along the way. I think they got a game, probably you could say, a stolen in there once or twice from their goaltending. But either way, I think they both were really good series. It's going to be tough for both teams.
Let me say this. I think the Dallas Minnesota series was so physical, it probably paid a toll. Even if the wins weren't as hard to come by, I think the physical toll probably existed.
Agreed.
Which is why you didn't see Dallas. Dallas should have beaten Seattle a lot worse, and they didn't.
And they should have beat them in less games, in my opinion. 6.
Yep, at least. For sure. It is. The Seattle story was really fun this year. The Seattle building was awesome. And guys, at the end of the game, game 7 between Dallas and Seattle, did you not feel like Seattle had a shot at scoring again? I mean, I was sitting there and I thought, there's no way.
Yeah.
No way that Seattle's wins this. Like, they're not scoring. They score with like 30 seconds left, and they almost scored again. And like
Yeah.
it was like, oh, like this is a legitimate chance.
Yeah.
To me, I'm very excited to watch these teams match up because of how hard they both play. They're both hard on the puck. They're hard in the corners. They both play a gritty game. Like it's not necessary, but they can also both play fast. And that's what's exciting. I think that you're going to have some lines that are just pounding it out against each other, and then you're going to have other lines that are back and forth fast. To me, this series is the ultimate type of, I mean, it's Western Conference hockey, right? This is the definition of what you play in the Western Conference.
Yep. Hard-nosed, gritty hockey. Can't wait for it.
What is your guys's, if you were to sit there and say one key to the series, what is it? What's like the thing you're looking forward to watching the most?
Heath, I'll let you start.
I think for this one, I think the biggest key for Dallas, they're getting the scoring what they need. I think Robertson's going to have to flip the switch in this series. They're getting goaltending, but he just
Not
had
every
5
game.
assists.
Not every game.
Not
Yeah,
every game, but
that's
they're
kind of
getting
what I was
they're
gonna
getting their
touch on.
goaltending. Ottinger's got to show up, because if one of these two teams decide to take a night off on the goalie side of things, it's going to be an interesting way they do it. Because if one game goes bad for one of these two, the other team could run away with this pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on was goaltending. I think that's a huge part of this because Ottinger did not look elite last series at all. And I don't know if it was a versus Seattle thing or what was going on, the minor injury under the pads, who knows? But he's got to be better against Vegas than he was against Seattle because it's only getting more difficult from here. So I think goaltending is going to be a big part of this series.
I think so as well. That's what I was going to say. If Jake Ottinger is Jake Ottinger for every game,
Dallas wins.
Dallas might win this thing, but I think Vegas's team is more complete. I'm interested to see how Aiden Hill plays, how he can stand up. The three of us were at Aiden Hill's NHL debut in Nashville when he was playing for the Arizona Coyotes. And I just remember watching him and thinking, like, this guy is the most unstoppable individual of all time. He's huge. He moves well. And what he did in the last series to Edmonton was really impressive. I mean, he almost single-handedly, that was dramatic. He was a huge factor in Vegas getting into this final and win that game 6. But I think that for me, it's going to come down to if Aiden Hill is consistent and if Ottinger is consistent, but also the forecheck of both of these teams. Which one is going to forecheck harder, make the plays, get into the gritty areas, and win the game? Let's real quickly to finish out this video, but I want you in the comments to answer this question as well. This is a hard series to predict. It feels foolish making these predictions, but let's talk about who we think is going to win the series. Cole, we'll start with you. Who do you think is going to win the series?
It's hard not seeing the series go to 7 games. So I'm going 7 games. I want Vegas to win, but I think Dallas is going to win. So I'm taking Dallas in 7. But I'm cheering for Vegas because I don't like Dallas.
I love it. Heath, what do you have?
Yeah, Dallas in 7.
Wow. That is bold. And so I'm going to join the club and say 7 games, but Jack Eichel was too impressive to me. He is in his first ever playoff run and he is learning how to play playoff hockey. And here's the thing that's key for me. Jack Eichel has been dominant on both sides of the puck. And to me, his ability to do that gets Vegas a series win here in 7 games, of course. There's no way this goes less. On the Vegas wins if Aiden Hill is good enough in net. But I think the series is going to be brutal. Brutal. One final thing I want to toss in here. So we have 2 Dallas predictions. We have a Vegas prediction. One final thing I want to toss in here. It's very interesting to me that 3 of the 4 states that are represented in this conference finals are non-tax states. That says something. It says that NHL teams can sit there and fill their roster better if they're in a non-tax state. because you don't have to pay your guys as much. That's a big deal. They were talking on the Merrick show today. Jim Nill has somehow kept all his stars under $9 million. That's why
insane.
Dallas is doing what they're doing right now. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, leave a like, subscribe, and comment how wrong we are or how right we are. We want to hear your thoughts, and we will see you next video.